Hello, fellow bibliophiles. My name is Anna, and welcome to Calavera Books. So today I'm going to be doing my November wrap-up. This video is very long overdue, but blaming distance teaching. This month I was able to finish 6 books, and I read 2 horror, one kind of like fantasy. I don't know if it's classified as fantasy, but that's what I'm going to call it. One contemporary and 2 YA, one of which was also a graphic novel. Out of the books that I read, I had 2 3-star books, I had 1 4-star book, and I had 3 5-star books. So it was a really good reading month for me. So the first book that I finished for the month of November was The Troop by Nick Cutter. This one had been on my TBR for a while. One of my favorite booktubers, Gabby Reads, I'll leave her link down below if you want to check out her channel. She's amazing. She raves about this book, and she said that it was one of the horror novels that she's read that has really stuck with her over the years. So this one I had bought a while back, and I finally got a chance to read it last month. The synopsis is there's a troop of Boy Scouts and their troop leader, and they go to this little remote island because they're supposed to stay there for a couple of nights and do some training on surviving in the wilderness. And it's always like this huge thing that gets hyped up every year. And the first night when they get there, the troop leader is just kind of like hanging out, making sure that the boys are okay. And this man shows up in this boat, and he's completely emaciated. He's really hungry. He's asking for food. He starts eating dirt and sticks, and he just keeps saying like how hungry he is. And you can kind of picture what happens from there. It was horrific. The descriptions are insane. There's also a warning for animal abuse in here again. So if that's something that you feel that you can't handle, just be aware that it is mentioned a couple of times in here. Honestly, this book was really messed up, but in the best possible way, because when I read a horror book, I want it to be disturbing. Like, that's what I am looking for. I'm looking for something that's disturbing and that stays with me and that gives me either the cringe factor or the scary factor. And this book gave me the cringe factor. For me, this book wasn't so much like scary where like I was afraid to read it like at home alone in the dark or anything like that. It wasn't like that. But it was very cringy, like the whole way through, and I loved it. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. So the second book that I read for the month of November was Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. And for those of you that know me, you know that I love Fredrik Backman. I've read quite a few of his novels to date. Not all of them, but I've read quite a few. And he's really big on like character development and developing the backstory for each character. Like, each one of his characters has a backstory. And I love his novels because he really teaches you how to look past simply the person's actions, because every single character that he writes, something has happened in their lives to make them the way that they are. And I love it because it really is quite profound, even though it's contemporary fiction. And I don't know, just his writing has always helped me to really put myself in someone else's shoes and try to be as empathetic as possible. And I love when writers are able to do that. This story is about a bank robber that's down on their luck, and they end up in an apartment when the apartment is being shown to like a group of prospective buyers, and everything that ensues after. So you follow the policeman, you follow the bank robber, you follow all of the people in the apartment, you get to know each character, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to end up saying anything that could be a spoiler. I did really enjoy this book. It was not one of my top favorite books of his, but I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The third book that I read for the month of November was The Deep by Rivers Solomon, and this one was a really short book. I got through it in a day and a half or so. This one was kind of, I don't want to say it was a letdown. However, I don't know, just not a lot happened in the novel. The premise got me really interested in reading it. The premise was that there was a group of mer people called the Wajinru, and they originated from African women who were pregnant and being sold as slaves. They got thrown overboard while they were on ships being transported from Africa to other places, and the babies that they had within them basically became mer people and the Wajinru people. The character that we follow is named Yetu, and their major conflict within the novel is that they are in charge of keeping all of the memories of the Wajinru people within themselves. So in a sense, it kind of reminded me of The Giver, because Yentu was the only mer person that was able to hold on to all of those memories, and all of the other Wajinru kind of went along their lives not worrying about anything that had happened in their past. So once a year, the Wajinru all get together and convene into this act called the Remembering, where Yentu transfers all of their memories to the rest of the people. But in the book, it's described as a very painful experience to Yentu, and they basically don't want to go through with it anymore. So they decide to leave the community, and it's what ensues after. The premise of the book sounded really good. It sounded really interesting. It was really short, but sadly, like, not a lot happened in this book. I don't know. I just wasn't overwhelmed by anything that happened in this one. I mean, the writing was pretty good. I mean, there really isn't anything that I can pinpoint, but I can just say, like, it wasn't a wow for me, honestly. There really wasn't any action. There wasn't a whole lot of character development. I don't know. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. I thought that it was pretty good. I thought that it was worth reading, but not one of my top books for the year. The next book that I read for the month of November was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, and I had heard so much buzz about this book, and oh my gosh, like, this book surpassed anything and everything that I had heard about it. I am so glad that I read it. I am looking forward to Aiden Thomas's next book. You cannot even, oh my gosh, if you have not read this yet, please turn off this video right now and order it online, or drive to Barnes & Noble's and go pick it up, or to your local bookstore, wherever, because this was such a good book. I really enjoyed it. In the novel, we follow Yadriel, who's a trans boy living in a community of, like, magical people. And in the community, all of the women have to be healers and all of the men have to be brujos. When the children get to a certain age, they go through a ceremony basically dedicating themselves to the Santa Muerte, and that is when they receive all of their powers. Since Yadriel is trans, he has never been able to go through the ceremony and get his powers. So he teams up with his cousin Maritza, and they do their secret ceremony so that way he can get his powers. The same night that he does his ceremony, he finds out that his cousin Miguel has died, and he knows that he needs to do something to help. So he does a spell to resurrect Miguel, but he makes a mistake and ends up resurrecting this other boy named Julian, who also attends his school. So the majority of the novel is basically Yadriel, Maritza, and Julian, and they're trying to find out what happened to Miguel, how Julian died, because he doesn't know how he died. And they're also dealing with Yadriel being a brujo and him not being able to tell anybody in his family because he's afraid of any repercussions that will happen. The novel was amazing. I laughed out loud so many times. I was really invested in both of the characters. I thought the representation of the Latinx community was wonderful. And of course, you all know that I love Dia de los Muertos, and that's basically what the book revolves around. And y'all know that I was all up in that. This one was an easy 5 out of 5 stars for me, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be one of my favorite books for 2020. The next book that I read for the month of November was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. This is a graphic novel, really short, finished it in about under an hour easily. It was pretty cute. The synopsis is 2 friends, Deja and Josiah. They work every year together at a pumpkin patch, and they are seniors in high school. So the day that we follow them, or I should say the night that we follow them, is their last night working together in the pumpkin patch. And Josiah is trying to talk to this girl that he's had his eye on for several years, and he knows that it's going to be his last night, last opportunity to speak to her because it's his last night working. So Deja follows him along, and they try to take advantage of everything that the pumpkin patch has to offer. They get into a couple of like funny little situations. It was a cute book. I mean, nothing life-changing. I'm probably gonna forget the majority of it, but it was nice. I mean, in between Cemetery Boys and the other novel that I read for November, I mean, it was okay. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I'd probably read it again next season just to get into that autumn mood. Yeah, it was cute. And the last book that I read for the month of November was The Shining by Stephen King. This one I actually finished the first couple of days in December, but I started in November, so I'm going to count it toward my November reading. So if you have not read the book and you have not seen the movie, we follow Jack, his wife Wendy, and his son Danny as they go to a giant hotel in the middle of Colorado called the Overlook Hotel, and Jack is supposed to be kind of like the caretaker during the off season, and him and Wendy and Danny are going to be there basically just taking care of the hotel, making sure that everything's okay. The only thing is that the hotel is basically like a living being, and Danny, the son, he has this thing called The Shining, where basically he has like some telepathic powers going on. He can see things. He has an imaginary friend named Tony that he interacts with. And basically it's everything that ensues there. As far as the creepy factor, I would maybe give it a 3 out of 5 because there was a couple of parts that were creepy, but the majority of the book was just kind of like, oh, like I just wanted to know what was going to happen. But overall, I gave this one 5 stars. It was amazing. I loved it. If you have seen the movie, I would highly recommend reading the book because the movie and the book are 2 completely different entities. A lot of what was in the movie is not in the book. You can tell that it was one of those situations where they took like the premise and then they made the movie, but they really didn't keep a lot of the details in. And it's really hard for me because I love the movie so much and I love the book so much. This is one of those novels that I can really see myself rereading in the future and enjoying again and again. That's how much I enjoyed it. So those were all the books that I read in the month of November. It was a really good reading month for me despite distance teaching. And I'm looking forward to ending the year with a few more books under my belt, maybe another Stephen King book under my belt. Stay tuned to see what's going to happen with that. So that will do it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I hope that you all wear your mask, maintain social distancing, buy your Christmas presents early before everything goes insane and everything gets sold out. You all are beautiful people. I hope you have a beautiful week. If you have not hit that subscribe button yet, please do me a favor and support my channel by hitting that subscribe button. And let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books, if you enjoyed them, your thoughts. And yeah, I hope to see you in my next video. Take care and have a great week.